Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Intensifies in Ukraine as Russia presses Ukrainian soldiers. Seaforth, St. Thomas rocked by yet another murder. And later in sports, reggae girl striker Khadija Bonnie Shaw named in CONCACAF Women's Best 11. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. We begin with the latest on developments in Ukraine as Russian President Vladimir Putin has called on Ukrainian military to turn on their own government. Ukrainian officials are preparing for a Russian assault on the capital Kiev as the full-scale attack enters a second day. No Ukrainian military vehicles have entered Kiev to defend the city against approaching Russian troops. The Interior Ministry says 18,000 guns have been given to volunteers with instructions to make Molotov cocktails. President Vladimir Zelensky says 137 people have been killed so far, both servicemen and civilians, and hundreds more wounded. Now for more on this story, we go to the CNN.
Well, this is where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said some of the fiercest fighting was yesterday. A key bridge on the outskirts of Kherson, essentially the route up into main Ukraine from the Russian-held peninsula of Crimea, taken in 2014. And you can see around me, there's been quite significant destruction here over the past 48 hours. That building clearly took a direct hit, presumably from some of the airstrikes we've been hearing. And this town, it's fair to say, is terrified. They turned their lights off last night. We saw hotels plunging themselves into darkness, children asking what's happening, low-flying aircraft coming in and the distant boom of airstrikes, intermittent small arms fire as well. I was told of dead bodies brought out from here. We've seen two. One man unfortunately left just in the middle of the road there. But the damage is pretty significant here, and we keep walking up towards this petrol station. You see the sort of bizarre local landmarks that end up being the focus of fighting, and it's clear the Ukrainian army made a significant stand here and took quite a lot of certainly damage to their vehicles, possibly military as well. Well, things seem to have been left off and where the Ukrainian forces' last positions were. They are a little bit further away from here. We don't give specifics when we're around them, but clearly there's been impact of shells nearby. That, I think, is part of a military guy's t-shirt, and still some artillery shells lying on the side here, unused. This petrol station, it seems, has also taken a significant hit. That van's been turned over, and one thing we're mindful of is a gas tank that seems to be slowly burning on that direction. What's extraordinary to see here is how fast civilian life returns back to this area. That's desperation. That's not people thinking it's safe. They're trying to get over to see people they care about, do what they need to do each day. But the contrast with that and the sheer kind of firepower that we're seeing used here, this must surely have been some kind of airstrike. I mean, the impact looks like it may have come from the Ukrainian side. But these tanks disabled, and all around us a sign of quite what Ukraine's government mean by the fighting having been most intense around here.
And back locally, our news centre has been informed that a 4-year-old boy died yesterday after being left in a locked car for several hours outside a basic school in Rollington Town, St. Andrew. Our news centre was told that tragedy struck after the boy and other children were transported to the school by a teacher about 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, it's reported that the children exited the vehicle, but the boy was left behind. Sometime in the afternoon, the teacher discovered that the child was still inside the car. The boy was taken to the Bustamante Hospital for Children, where he was pronounced dead at 3:20 p.m. His father, Curtis Clark, is finding it hard to come to grips with his son's sudden passing.
Can't explain, can't sleep, can't stop thinking about my son. I never expect me to live to see that day. Never expect. And my son full of sense. Son is a very smart little boy. Not know them say, cannot add up. But oh, my son dead. Nothing at all. I know I don't see the teacher and I have to talk to the teacher, no. Because you could never carry a picnic at school in the morning and more than one of them there in the car. Jay now go stay in the car. Nah, go stay in the car. Jay know for pull the car door, my 4. 2-year-old pitney a pull the car door, or 1-year-old a pull the car door. Oh, him left back in the car and the teacher do not know.
And this is the second such incident in just over a month. On January 19, 18-month-old Shalane Dobson died at the Black River Hospital in St. Elizabeth after being left in a car for 8 hours. And in St. Thomas, that parish continues to be rocked by an increase in murders since the start of the year. As we hear in this report from O'Shane Masters, the community of Seaforth is a trouble area for the police in the parish.
The Seaforth community in St. Thomas continues to feel the deadly impact of crime. TVJ News has been informed that one man was shot and killed yesterday afternoon by gunmen in the community. The murder took place about 12:50 p.m. The deceased has been identified as Anthony Bailey of a School Lane address in the community. He's said to be in his 40s. Information received is that Mr. Bailey was packing a pit when gunmen approached and shot him. Head of the St. Thomas Police Superintendent Alison Byfield says a police team was on patrol in the community when the explosions were heard.
And the police went in search and checked with citizens of the area, and they stumbled on the body of Anthony Bailey, OC Johnny, OC Traveller. He's 46 years of age, of a Blacksmith Lane, but presently residing in the Patagoli area. He had multiple gunshot wounds to the neck and head.
Superintendent Byfield says the killing is linked to a gang feud which has spilled over from last year. She's appealing to those involved to bring the fighting to an end. In the meantime, one resident who was afraid to speak on camera says it's just something they will have to live with.
We can't do nothing about it. You're tired of the war? Yeah, but we can't do nothing about it. We have to just go and live with it, because I don't know when my day will tell. To war go on. We even get scared of even my own self. You get that? Because for a couple months from now, I be a job every youth I get job bad man. Every youth. That me I wonder and I say one night time. No man now go there for service the woman them.
There have been 5 murders in St. Thomas since the start of the year. 4 of them occurred within the Seaforth community. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
There are mixed reactions from taxi operators in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth about a possible second fare increase. This following a hint from Transport Minister Audley Shaw last week. Sandy Williams tells us more.
I want to remind us that we did have a 15% adjustment. And I want to say that there is also in the way not too distant future, there'll be another adjustment that will be made.
Transport Minister Audley Shaw hinting at another fare increase while speaking at the launch of a taxi operators pension scheme recently. Taxi operators were granted a 15% fare increase in August last year. However, there are mixed reactions from taxi operators, particularly those in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, about the potential of a second rise in fare. Some are looking forward to the increase.
The gas system get too dear. We can't buy gas $200 a litre. It can't work, so if we fear go a bit better for we.
So we want every day we spend about 10,000 buy gas every day. Hard pan your time. Just not like you.
I wouldn't want that, man. All is dead in the grave, but I want it up right now. Gas, then. We get a raise in fear. We want it. Because things can't pencil out for we. You understand what I say? People need to maintain. That still happens. Right now, I feel like I'm in yard, we should not go right now. But you know, we just go and be around, perseverance.
But others say the move would be unnecessary and unfair to minimum wage workers. They say the government should roll back taxes on petrol instead.
The thing about it, people pay now go for the bread. You understand me? You pay the same $1. Guess what? You see for the same $1 there, you go supermarket out of it every week. And I see them rent you out of the same $1 every week. Fare increase right now make no sense, brother. Roll back the price of gas. That them for do.
Yes. If you check all who work at supermarket, I get 7,000 a week and 8,000 by the time I take out 3,000 who leave. So we could have satisfied with the we'll get the other day. If you're in a raise, okay, you're rough for poor people.
You take your cash money, buy your car, or you trust your mortgage your house or your mortgage your land. And then him decide and tell you what amount of increase to put on it. But light bill still going up, water rate still going up, and nobody's salary not going up. So the fare increase don't make a difference.
Meanwhile, some operators have been illegally charging more than the stipulated increase. The transport minister said law enforcers will be clamping down on those operators. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Residents in Portmore believe that the consultation process for the municipality to be granted parish status was flawed. A member of one of the youth organizations said at the last virtual consultation meeting, only 6 people were allowed to voice their concern. Speaking at the RJR Gleaners virtual town hall on Portmore Parish plans on Thursday night, East Central St. Catherine Member of Parliament Alanda Terrelong said out of the 200,000 residents, 28 people had written letters to the government, while others wrote in the island's daily newspapers or called into radio programs. However, he says there is no confirmation on the number of persons that actually took part in the consultation process. As to plans of reopening the consultations, Member of Parliament for South East St. Catherine Robert Miller offered this response.
That is ongoing. I would not say it's a failure. You know, persons were given opportunity to give their contribution.
So you're willing to go back, select?
I've always been doing it. I've been doing it.
Okay, Marklon, you wanted to come in?
And MP Miller said it earlier on, because of the pandemic, right, you weren't able to have, virtual town hall meetings like going to the Portmore Academy, going across to Gregory Park, or even up by Greater
And I understand that, but the restrictions have been eased.
Exactly.
So are you willing to go back to the
I
people?
believe what is the best way forward now is to engage the people, engage the young people, engage the residents of Portmore. It's actually a done deal. It's going to be a parish. However, as we move forward, we can hear the voice and the words of the voice of the people, the concerns, and just move the process as we go along.
And to other news, the Clarendon police continue to make a dent in acts of predial larceny. On Friday, one man was caught with goats for which he could not give an account. Constable Norman Ware of the Moko Police spoke with our news team.
The police was patrolling the Bonesgate district in the Moko Police area, enforcing the curfew order. However, a white Pro Box was seen parked along the roadway. A white Toyota Pro Box was seen parked along the roadway about 1 a.m. On the approach of the police, the driver was about to drive away when he was signaled to stop. He complied. He exited the vehicle where he stated that he alone was in the vehicle. Sounds were coming from the vehicle where it arose our suspicion, and a search was made of the vehicle where 4 goats was seen.
In light of recent wage increases for security guards and teachers, Postal Service agents staged a protest on Tuesday, complaining that they have been left out of wage considerations. According to President of the United Union of Jamaica, James Francis, Postal Service agents do the same work as postal clerks. While that group has received benefits such as wage increases and vacation, for the last 15 years, postal agents have not seen these benefits.
It's been a long struggle from 1994, and we have the matter is right presently before the Ministry of Finance, and we wrote them, we called them. The matter is with the Confederation of Trade Union, and they are sitting down on the thing. They will not help with it.
They are also describing their current wage package as unfair pay.
A postal agency just called me and tell me that she work for a month, 3 days a week, and get $8,100. It is there, and she's a sick woman, have to go to work on the cook stick. And we have another case out in Kimenas Bay where a woman worked 31 years with the postal agents. The Postmaster General and the ministry closed down the postal agents. And up to now, they have not given that lady $1.
He says promises were made for them to get a wage increase. However, that promise is yet to be fulfilled. And for the latest on the economy, here's Cody and Barrett with the Business Minute.
In the world of business, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Aubin Hill, has set a deadline for the merger of the Fair Trading Commission, FTC, and the Consumer Affairs Commission, CAC. However, its chairman, Donovan White, says the committee has since been working through administrative processes.
We are sufficiently happy with the progress so far. We're going to continue to push as hard as we can, as far as we can, as quick as we can, to ensure that we meet the timelines.
The West has announced a barrage of tough new sanctions aimed at cutting off Russia's banks from the global financial system. The UK repeated calls on Friday for Russia to be banned from the SWIFT payment network, which is pivotal for the smooth transaction of money worldwide. The United States and the European Union held back from cutting Russia off from SWIFT after failing to agree on a step that some have called the nuclear option. It would damage Russia, but also big economies in Europe. And coming up in the Business Review this Sunday, it's a food delivery service that is carrying all things jerk straight to your front door. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And it's time for the top regional stories with Sandy Williams.
In Haiti, the General Directorate of the National Police of Haiti has announced an investigation into the circumstances that led to the death of a photojournalist during a street protest by textile workers over an increase in minimum wages earlier this week. Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry has already deplored the death of journalist Maxihen Lazier, who was killed on Wednesday as he covered the demonstration. Mr. Lazier, a photojournalist with the online media RDI, was shot and killed instantly during the protest action, while 3 other journalists were injured, 2 of them by bullets. And in Barbados, the government has joined in the condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and called on the Russian Federation to immediately cease its hostilities and respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Prime Minister Mia Mottley said that the events leading up to the invasion had been deeply disturbing, recalling that the 15-member CARICOM grouping of which Barbados is a part had reaffirmed its commitment to respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, non-interference in the internal affairs of another state, the prohibition on the threat or use of force, and peaceful resolution of disputes. She said that this position is in keeping with the principled stance that Barbados steadfastly maintains in its international engagement, including most recently with respect to the situation in Venezuela, its regional neighbor. And those were the top regional stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Reggae Girls striker Khadija Bunny Shaw has been named in the CONCACAF Women's Best 11 for the February window of the World Cup qualifiers. Shaw scored 4 goals in 2 appearances as Jamaica blanked Bermuda 4-0 and defeated Grenada 6-1. The 25-year-old was the only Jamaican named in the 11. The 11 also comprises 2 Haitians, 2 Cubans, 2 Mexicans, 2 Guatemalans, and 1 player from Panama and the Dominican Republic. Despite not making the 11, an honourable mention was given to fellow Reggae Girls strikers Jodie Brown and Tiffany Cameron. Brown scored 3 goals in the 2 qualifiers, while Cameron netted 1. The Reggae Girls will next be in action against the Cayman Islands away on April 9 before hosting the Dominican Republic on April 12. Reggae Boys striker Shamar Nicholson and Spartak Moscow will not be allowed to play their round of 16 UEFA Europa League game against RB Leipzig on March 17 in Russia. The governing body of European football UEFA made the announcement on Friday, which is a punishment for the Russian club for Russia's invasion on Ukraine. Meanwhile, another Jamaican in Mikel Antonio and West Ham United will face 6-time winner Sevilla, while Kemar Roof and Rangers FC will battle Red Star Belgrade. The first leg of the round of 16 of the Europa League is slated for March 10. To cricket we go now, as the ability to have matches go ahead with just 9 players is among the flexible arrangements that tournament officials have added to ensure next month's ICC Women's Cricket World Cup in New Zealand runs as smoothly as possible. While officials remain hopeful that the 31-day tournament will still run as expected, contingencies have been put in place to deal with the ongoing COVID outbreak and rising cases in New Zealand. The West Indies will open the tournament on Thursday, March 3 against the host nation. The top 4 teams in the 8-team round-robin tournament will advance to the semi-finals of the competition. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it's over to you.
Thanks so much, Simon. And that's it indeed for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon and have a good weekend.